One two microphone check. This is Gregory Ford, CanadianBlackBusiness.com. Yeah. So basically, I wanted to make a video about someone that's doing a really good, amazing, exceptional job in the black community in terms of international activity. And this is gonna be a little bit of a long video, so if you don't have a long attention span, then maybe it's not the video for you. But I'm just gonna break down some little knowledge right now. So basically, I find that in the black community, we're very, very quick to focus on the negative. We're always talking to the person that got shot, the person that got stabbed, the person that got arrested. But then we don't talk about the person that the black youth that got a PhD. Or when do you ever see that on the news? When do you ever see somebody that's being very successful in the business community, owning several businesses? When do you ever see that? When is that ever talked about? And we can complain that media doesn't talk about it, but we don't even talk about it either. You know what I'm saying? You might have a black man that owns 5 stores. When do you ever see that? You might have a black youth that got like 2 scholarships, and when do black people talk about that? But black people, as a whole, I don't put myself out of this. I'm black also. I'm not judging, but I'm just saying, like, we need to change the fact that when there's a black kid that excels scholastically, nobody talks about it. I don't really ever hear that. I only hear about the person that got shot in Scarborough Town Center, or the black kid that got arrested selling drugs, like on CTV News or whatever. Like, we're even in our own same communities. We tend to sort of focus on the negative. So I feel like I'm gonna try to focus a little bit on the positive. So there's someone in the international black community that I've been paying attention to, and we should all be paying attention to. So his name is Ibrahim Traoré, right? So he is the president of Burkina Faso, right? But Burkina Faso is a country in the western part of Africa. Okay, it's landlocked, so they don't have access to the ocean, water, or anything. They're landlocked, but they have many resources. They have gold, they have bauxite, I believe, and it's a rich country. But they used to be a French colony, and the French just took everything out of the country without giving it the occupants of the country any type of compensation for it. You know what I mean? And so this guy, Ibrahim Traoré, you can Google him. He took over the government. He's a military man, so he was like a high person in the military, and he just decided to say, like, this is enough of this, and he took over the country. We need to realize that, like, as black people in the diaspora, Canada, United States, and the Caribbean, like, the African people are young. You know what I mean? The vast majority of the African population is under 20. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, yo. So they're not even into this whole idea of slavery. They don't even remember that or even thinking anything about that. They're just thinking like, yo, we're sitting on all the resources that the whole world needs, but we're poor. That's stupid. You know what I mean? So this is the way that, you know what I mean, they're thinking. So he comes from that. It seems that he comes from that ideology, right? So I think he's 36, 35, 36, and he's the youngest president, you know what I mean, that we have working right now. So it's amazing, you know what I mean? And I'm just going to detail to you a few of the things that he's done. And I can't detail to you all of it because the video would be too long, you know what I mean? So I know, you know what I mean, people don't like watching a long video, so I'll just break it down real quick. So he increased the GDP of almost 5 billion. Okay, that's crazy. He rejected loans from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, and he said Africa doesn't need the World Bank, the IMF, or Europe or America, which is absolutely true because at the end of the day, I mean, like, Africa is the nation or the continent that is self-sufficient. You know what I mean, everything that you need to live as a society is in Africa. You don't need to import anything really. You know what I mean? You can, but you don't need to. You know what I mean? So that's the point that he was making there. He reduced the salaries of ministers and parliamentarians by 30%, and increased the salaries of civil servants by 50%. So this is something that he did. So one of the things that I paid attention to is that he actually started cutting back on the things that the people in the government, you know what I mean, were taking advantage of, you know, cars and like stupidness like that, you know what I mean? So he's like, no, you can drive your own car to work. You don't need a government appointed car. Like, you can just drive your own car to work like anybody else, you know what I mean? And they weren't just using like regular cars. They were using like they were importing, you know, SUVs from China. You know what I mean? Like luxury SUVs and stuff like that. He's like, nah, you ain't gotta do that, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the people in this country are coming to work every day in their own car, or coming to work every day in their own car. You come to work every day in your own car. What do you need a luxury SUV for? So he stopped that, and that was a big, you know, move because it saved a lot of money. He paid off Burkina Faso's local debts. Now this is a big issue because Burkina Faso was in debt to the French government. The French colonized Burkina Faso, and basically, even after the colonization was finished, they still held their money in French banks. Okay, and that was like a way of keeping control over the country. So he actually paid off the debt. You understand what I'm saying? Because of the things that he was doing. So then the French didn't have any real power over them anymore because, you know, money is power. He established 2 tomato processing plants, the first ever in Burkina Faso. That's big. In 2023, he inaugurated a state-of-the-art gold mine to enhance local processing capabilities. And this is big, huge, because the fact is, like, we already know, like, gold, silver, copper, all these precious minerals come from Africa, okay? And in Europe, like you talk about France, England, they don't have any of these, you know, precious minerals in their country. They colonized Africa specifically for that reason. You understand what I'm saying? So now, I mean, what was happening is that uh, African countries would export, these precious minerals, and but they wouldn't get like compensated for it enough. And on top of that, like because it's not like the European countries would take it as a raw material and then process it. You understand what I'm saying? But if the African countries would actually process it first and then, refine it first and then give it to the, European countries, then they could charge a lot more. You understand what I'm saying? So the European countries always wanted to take it as a raw mineral because it would be cheaper, right? Because it's not refined. So anyway, that's where that comes from. I'm just reading off a list. So he stopped the export of unrefined Burkina Faso gold to Europe. That's what it just talked about. He built Burkina Faso's second cotton processing plant. Previously, the country had only one. So again, raw materials, which is key. I mean, if you want to rule the world, or you want to rule and have any type of power, I mean, raw materials is the way that countries do it, and that's why they've been so adamant about coming to Africa to try to get raw materials, because they know that's how you make money. That's how you get rich. He banned the wearing of British legal wigs and gowns in the local courts, and introduced traditional Burkina attire. So basically, what's that saying is like, when you look at these these videos of people that are in the court system and they're wearing that, like, even whether they're white or black, they're wearing all this it's like a wig, you know what I mean, with the white, you know what I mean, curls, you know what I mean, and that comes from the British system, and or I don't know if it comes to British, is it French system? Yeah, the British system. So he stopped that, which makes total sense, because I mean, like, how can you have a real legitimate country and you're still employing the systems and traditions of another country? That doesn't make any sense. So we're getting down here. He prioritized agriculture by distributing over 400 tractors, 239 tillers, 710 motor pumps, 714 motorcycles to boost production and support rural stakeholders. So that's one of the things that he did. He banned French military operations in Burkina Faso. So the thing is, France had, colonized Burkina Faso, and they were the ones that were controlling everything in the country. I mean, like, in terms of military, in terms of politics, media, you know what I mean? So, it's their colony. So he came and he was like, no, we're not doing this no more. You know what I mean? The people backed him. You understand what I'm saying? They tried to call it a coup, but the fact is, if the whole country's behind this movement, it's not a coup. It's a revolution, right? So he kicked out the French military, which you would say, okay, but he kicked out the French military, man. It's a big move. Well, it's really, who has a country? Like, what country has another country's military ruling in that country? Like, that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, I live in Canada, right? So I can't imagine another military operating in Canada and controlling the military operations that happen in Canada. That's not even, it wouldn't even be able, it's not even conceivable. So why is it that an African country, it's even an argument? Like, you know what I mean? They're like, you know, the African people now, like the people in Burkina Faso are like, yo, get out of our country. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So this is the mentality that's going right now. Let's see. I'm trying not to make this video too long. Constructed new roads. He widened the roads. He's building an airport, an international airport, which Burkina Faso has never had. So basically, it's expected to be completed this year with a capacity to handle 1 million passengers annually. So anyway, I'm not gonna make the video too much longer because I could go on and on forever for, you know, what this guy Ibrahim Traoré has done, you know, in terms of advancing his own country and advancing, you know, just the general you know, perception of black people, you know, and he's someone that we should focus on. You know what I mean? We tend to focus on, you know, when we go on social media, we look at who slapped who, you know what I mean, who cussed out who, you know what I mean, you know, who, you know what I mean, who beat who punched who, you know what I mean. In the black community, we look at those things, but I mean, we also need to start focusing on the positive ones in our community, and, you know, not just, you know, locally but globally as well. So I think that you know, Ibrahim Traoré, everyone needs to go Google him and look at what he's doing. You know, his life has been threatened endless times. You know what I mean? And he's still going. So I think you know what I mean, we see the things that go on in our community, and yes, we need to address those things as well, and I do. But when it's something that's positive, focus on that twice as much, because we want it to go on. You know what I mean? So Gregory Ford, CanadianBlackBusiness.com. Peace.